Trent, just wondering if you could address the pick of Ventrell Miller and how much concern you might have had about his medical issues with the foot.
No concern, really. He injured his foot, had a revision on it. He's progressing well. The docs were very confident in his rehab, and he'll be ready to roll.
What about in terms of where you see him fitting on this roster?
Well, he's a linebacker. He'll compete for a spot. You asked me what I think. He's a linebacker. He'll be in that room, and he can play Mike and Mo. He's a 3-time captain. He's a high intangible guy. He's a baller. Feel he fits in really well on special teams as well as a core 4 guy. So looking forward to getting him in here.
13 picks, 8 of them in the final 3 rounds. Do you look at those late guys as the equivalent of maybe undrafted free agency in a normal year, or do you feel like 13 guys can fit on this roster that was pretty darn good last year and didn't lose a ton?
Well, what we tried to do is, Coach and I throughout the process, once the day started, is look at ways that we could improve the roster, especially on the special team side. And just selecting guys that had a chance to compete for the 53 and as well as special teams, bring some added value there, and felt really good about the group we got.
Did you think special teams was not as good as it could have been last year? Because I thought you were pretty decent on special teams, but I'm just...
You're always looking to get better.
Always trying to improve. Special teams is just 3 phases of what we are as a team, right? Offense, defense, and special teams. And as good as we were, you're always looking, again, just like any other side of the ball, it's a way to get even better. So adding the depth and bringing, drafting some of these players that we did can help us there.
Brought in Antonio Johnson. He's a guy who spent most of his collegiate career playing in the slot. Is that your vision for him here in Jacksonville?
Well, he's in the slot a lot, but he's a safety, in how they play the defense. So he wasn't, man covering a lot of people in the slot. He dropped down. He's more of a box type guy. But again, there's a high character, tough guy, great tackler. Just a guy that and a really good teams guy. He's been a core 4 guy there his whole career. Really looking forward to him as well, getting in here and competing with that group.
Going into the draft, you told us your board was, less than 150 draftable graded players. Was it always your plan to acquire more picks in this draft when you said you had a little bit of a shorter board?
No, it wasn't. But if you look at how the draft went, we tried to trade up today. We went through 15 or 16 teams when we were trying to trade up. Every team behind us, and not one would make a move. So, that happened to us several times. And the times we were able to trade back, we just felt at the time that we could trade back and get the players that we were planning on picking anyway, and we're able to do that. So it's just how the draft went this year.
Hey, Doug, I don't know how much, and Trent, do you guys pay attention to what the other teams in the division are doing on a day like, the weekend like this, or is that something that you wait for a couple of days to kind of look that way?
I know for me personally, I didn't pay much attention to it because we were so into our draft, and the guys that we were doing. It's something that we'll take a look at now as we get past this weekend and on into the rest of the offseason. Yeah.
I would assume you noted that all 3 teams drafted quarterbacks.
Didn't notice that.
Yeah, at all, not at all. Does that?
Did they?
Well,
they did.
They did.
How comforting is that to know, and I think you addressed a little bit the other night, those guys are chasing you because you've got your guy, and how comforting it is and how much it takes off your mind to know you've got your guy and you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's nice to have your guy, obviously, but listen, there's a bullseye on us, obviously. I want our team to understand that, and we have to, continue to do this. We have to improve as a football team. We still left a lot of plays on the field last fall, both sides of the ball, really all 3 phases, and so for us, it's not focusing on other teams as much as it is just us getting better, and it'll start this off season and it'll carry over into training camp, but. we have to improve. But it is nice knowing that you have, the one piece, which is a big piece, obviously the quarterback position in Trevor Lawrence.
Trent, could you just talk about the evaluation of Abdullah? Just 6 foot tall, probably a little bit smaller normally than a typical edge player. Just how did you guys see him, and how does he sort of fit?
Well, first and foremost, special teams, and the fact that he had 20 sacks the past 2 years at a high level of competition. So, there's been some very productive shorter rushers in the National Football League. He can run. He runs 4.52, and he runs it. He gets to it in a hurry, coming off the edge. And what you see with the smaller guys that are having success in this league, it's hard for those 6'6", 6'7" tackles to get down to their level. So that gives them, and it's a change up for our guys. And our defensive staff was kind of looking for a guy that was a change up to what we currently have. So we just felt at that point in time, the production, the character of the kid, how hard he works, how important football is to him, and the success he's had at that level all made sense to us.
Do you anticipate him playing more than just on the edge, maybe a little bit off ball like he did at Louisville, or just probably more consistently as a pass rusher?
That's going to be up to the coaches once he gets in here, and we'll get a good feel for him over the next couple of weeks, months, and see exactly where he fits into the defensive package. But that's totally up to the coaches.
Tyler Lacey, you guys had in for a top 30 visit. What kind of impression did he make on you guys during that visit?
Excellent impression.
Really good. Yeah.
I mean, what do you see from him, on tape, just his overall versatility and what he can bring?
Well, a big-bodied guy, and as you saw in this draft, they were few and far between. There just weren't a lot of big bodies up front, and he's a guy that played a lot of football at a high level of competition. He's a class act, another guy that really a character fit, DNA fit for us. So a guy that we feel can come in and compete, play on the edge in the base package as a big end, and maybe slide inside a little bit as a D tackle when we go into the nickel sets.
And then Braswell, I know you've mentioned special teams a few times. Is that obviously going to be critical for him coming in, but what else was there that you saw out of him that really interested you guys?
Cover skills. And when you talk to their coaches, he was a transfer in there 1 year with them at Rutgers. So a guy that, stepped in, played a lot of football. They spoke very highly of him. You watch how he competed the last part of the season. And then you look at the numbers, 40-inch vertical guy, almost 11-foot broad jumper. He's got some explosion in his body, and he's really quick in a short area, which you have to be at nickel.
Just kind of run through these seventh-round guys since we just kind of found out about them. Hodges, local guy, how did he get on your radar?
Well, we were watching, years ago I was watching App State, and we drafted a guy, Daniel Kilgore, out of App State that was playing left tackle. And similar to this year, we were watching, a bunch of us were in there watching the App State, and we were actually watching another player. And, he just kept showing up. He's a tough, he started, I think, 50 or 51 games at the collegiate level. He's always been a right tackle for them. We feel he can move inside and play the guard position. We had him in here for one of the 30 visits. Really enjoyed the visit, and saw him play guard at the All-Star game and felt really good about that film. So just a guy that come in and compete.
And then Raymond out of UNC.
Raymond.
Bohasek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Defensive tackle, nose tackle. Very good film. Very good film, tough, very good with his hands. Spoke to him on the phone, had a great conversation with him the other day. A guy that loves football, worked with a guy that's on staff at North Carolina, spoke very highly of him. He's all ball, and when we called him, and Coach got a chance to talk to him, he's all ball. So.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you had any comment.
None.
No. Okay. And then the $1 million question, Mr. Parrish will be playing what position for you?
Well, again, another guy that we'll leave that up to the coaches, but we're probably going to start him off in the fullback room, the running back room, and we'll work him from there. Another guy that's an excellent special teams guy, core 4 guy that our special teams coaches were extremely high on.
Trent, with how many draft picks you guys made, does that affect at all the ability to be aggressive with undrafted free agents and bringing guys in on that standpoint?
Well, the advantage of having that many picks, what happens in college free agency, which the guys are doing right now, they cost a lot of money. That game, that landscape has changed. So, we're out there, these seventh-round picks are really getting less money than the college free agents are getting right now in terms of guaranteed dollars and everything else. So, when you have 13 picks, it allows you to draft some of those guys that you would normally be fighting for in college free agency. But once you get these guys on the team, we don't set any boundary, we don't set any limits. Whether you're the first guy on the roster or the 90th guy on the roster, you come in and compete. If you earn the spot, you're going to earn the spot. And I think Coach would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Were there any of the calls to the guys that you picked that stood out to you guys either way? Good, bad, funny, anything that sticks with you or one you really enjoyed talking to?
Well, one guy we couldn't get on the phone
Went straight to voicemail.
twice.
Twice.
Which one was that?
I believe it was let me see if I can recall. I think it was Eric Hallett.
It was Eric Hallett, I
Eric
believe.
Hallett. But once he
Yeah.
got on the phone, he was fired up.
Everybody reacts differently. I mean, some guys are just emotional. They're overwhelmed. They hear their name, called on the big screen, and at the same time, they're excited to know where they're going to be and go to work. All of them, as Trent alluded to, all these guys are high character guys. They're going to be great fits, on our roster right now, and they're just excited to get in and go to work.
Do you have pretty much a script when you call these guys, what you're always going to say, same thing, or you just kind of wing it each time? Or?
He's got the gift of gab.
Yeah, sure do, sure do. No, I mean you just be natural. I mean it's a great opportunity for them, and they're I forget which one of the players that we talked to, we couldn't even hear him because the enthusiasm in the room, he couldn't hear us. Which was it?
Ventrell.
Yeah, it was Ventrell. Yeah, everybody was so fired up on his end that he couldn't hear us and I couldn't hear him. But he was just elated, and all of his family and friends were excited. But it's just you don't have anything rehearsed. You're just natural and just welcoming them to the team.
Speaking of Eric Hallett, what do you envision the role for him, and just how do you just generally feel about his value?
Well, he's played some safety, he's played some nickel, and again, once we draft them and they get in here, I think our coaches are looking at him in that same capacity. Where does he best fit? Is he competing for the nickel spot, big nickel spot, the potentially safety? The versatility of the player was something that was very attractive to us at that point in time in the draft.
Doug, can you talk a little bit about that? Because you hear this word versatility over and over again with people you pick, because it just seems like one of your favorite things is to have just these people move around.
It's the best thing to have. The guys that can play multiple positions. He, in his case, he can play inside, outside, and maybe eventually they play safety. Right? They got that skill set that is versatile enough to play multiple spots. It's like tackles on offense or guards that can move in and play center. And they have the ability to do that because, this is a game that injuries are going to happen. And if you've got guys that can play multiple positions and you can kind of plug and play, and it just gives you an advantage to have as many of those guys on your roster.
Trent, do you have a guesstimate on the undrafted free agents, how many you have room for or would like to?
I think, I'm pretty sure we have room for 10.
Okay, 10. And Doug, the league has moved away from fullbacks, and now with Parrish, it sounds like you're adding one. You guys weren't very good on short yardage, 3rd and 1 last year. Is that a philosophical change for you to go to bring in a fullback and go that way, or is this a part of losing Manhertz, who was really good, short yardage blocker?
We're just changing, pounding ground. Here we go. Trevor's going to turn around and hand it off.
Seriously?
No. Listen, the fullback position has been non-existent pretty much in our league. It's kind of gone away. I grew up with a fullback in this league back when my days in Green Bay. And, that position, again, we talk about versatility. You know, it's a position that can line up in the backfield. It can line up as a tight end. It could be a third tight end. They play special teams. You know, it's a position that you can do multiple things with, and you know, it's something that having a guy, you know, on the roster that can play those positions just opens up your offense just a little bit more. And you know, yeah, I would agree. We weren't very good, you know, in short yardage situations last year, and you know, it's just another way, another tool, another piece to the puzzle that we'll, you know, experiment with this offseason and particularly in training camp.
And then for either one of you, you touched on the potential to bring in maybe somebody who wasn't necessarily a great person. Maybe you said the locker room could handle any kind of questionable. You guys brought in a lot of Boy Scouts here, and it seems like really good guys, really team leaders, all that. Was that a concerted effort? Hey, let's not mess this up. We've got something really good that we've built here. This is not the time to be tweaking with the locker room.
I know for me, yes, we do have a really good locker room, and I feel personally that if we were to, you know, draft a player that might have some issues, that our locker room can absorb that. And, you know, and that's where I feel we are as a football team. And these guys on this list, these are football players. These are high character, but these guys all love football, and yet they're good people, you know, first, and that's something that we do look at. But I do feel strongly that our locker room is capable of handling, you know, any person, any player, any situation.
Back here, there's been a lot of talk, obviously, the last few months about if there's an area to get better in, and I know there are a lot of them, but pass rush. You lose Smoot and Key, almost double-digit sacks. Obviously, you draft a couple of guys, but how much are you leaning on Trayvon taking a step, some of these other guys taking a step, Josh finishing, Doug, to really make up for some of the production and make your pass rush better?
Yeah, I think we are, you know, leaning on that, and we are expecting, you know, Josh Allen to take the lead, and of course Trayvon's there, and Caleb on Chason to take a step. I mean, those are all guys that have been here, the second year in the defense. You know, Jordan Smith's coming back off injury is another opportunity there. So, yeah, we expect you know, greater results, you know, starting in training camp and obviously carrying over to the regular season. So looking forward to it, looking forward to working with these guys, developing their skill set even more.
Trent, just to follow up to that, there are a lot of players still out there from a free agency standpoint that have pretty good resumes.
Yeah.
How much work still goes into that, and obviously time to maybe add still?
There's always time to add, you know, and we're in a good situation from a cap perspective. We're a lot less tight on the cap than we were a year ago. There's room to work here. We're not, you know, and Coach and I talked about this right after the draft. We're not done putting this team together. You know, we're going to take a hard look at what we have. We got a great chance with these young guys coming in a couple of weeks, and then over the next month or so, watching them as they go through the off-season program and really kind of assess where we're at as an offense, as a defense, as special teams, as a team in general, and then we'll make some decisions from there. But you know, I would expect us to continue to make some moves. How big they are or how small they are, that remains to be seen. But we're not done. We're going to continue to work to build this team and make it as potent as we can going into the regular season.
Time for a couple more.
Now that you have your draft class kind of in the books and you can look at it as a whole, did things kind of flow as you expected, and are you pretty happy with all the players you were able to get?
You know, yeah, you always look back, you know, we talked last night when it ended, you know, and what, you know, how that day went and where we were at and what we wanted to look forward to coming into today. And, you know, we just wanted to add good football players. You never go wrong adding guys that love to play the game, that are smart, you know, competent guys, you know, versatility, we use that word a lot, but a lot of the guys you can see as we add these pieces, they have versatility. And when you only have 53 guys on a roster, you need that. You know, this isn't college where you turn around and you got 57 guys or 60, 70 guys to choose from while the other ones are out on the field or more. You got 53 and only 48 on game days. So the more they can do, the better. But, you know, we're excited for this group to get them in here and just get our hands on them and see exactly what we got and let them show us what they can do.
And you added players from kind of all over the place, but you added a few from the state of Florida, even a guy from right in Baker County. Does that ever kind of help or play a role where guys from, if you can bring them back to their home state or home area in the decision making?
I think it does. It does to a point. You know, I think you weigh it a little bit. If they're even, if they're comparable, you maybe go with the home guy that grew up loving the Jacksonville Jaguars and really wanting to be a part of it. They're going to fight maybe just a little bit harder to earn that spot.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up, John.
Doug, Parker Washington, I mean, what stood out to you about him and really how you think he can kind of fit into what you like to do on offense?
Yeah, I mean, this guy, you know, the size, the speed, his athleticism. Obviously, you talk about, you know, stretching the defense a little bit, middle of the field area. You know, I think being behind a guy like Christian and understanding how Christian operates is going to be great for Parker to be able to see him and really how Zay operates and how Calvin operates. You know, these are having a young guy like this with the ability to create some plays offensively. Just gives us another weapon, you know, another target for Trevor and the quarterbacks to throw to. And so excited to get him in here and get him going and seeing what he can do.
And then, Trent, I know you mentioned Daniel Kilgore earlier. How much does bringing in Parrish, how much does that remind you of Bruce Miller, you know, from when he converted to fullback?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's hard to compare. I mean, that was a long time ago when we scouted Bruce Miller, but, you know, we were one of the only teams at that time that went down and did a private workout with Bruce. And, you know, I think there's some similarities. They're similar in size.